Oh, I don't.
Oh no.
All right, everybody, we are live now. Welcome to the Financial Advocacy Podcast. I am your host, David Kinder, registered financial consultant and charter life underwriter, here with my co-hosts, Kurt Gibbs and Mike Moffat. And this past week, we did not schedule this. I consider this to be a quasi-economic briefing. We did not schedule this thinking that everything that happened in the news yesterday was going to happen because we scheduled a podcast. You know what I mean? The universe does not revolve around me, but I appreciate the extra attention that we're going to get because of all this stuff. But I want to do a proper introduction here, although I don't have speaker notes, but that's okay. We have a special guest, Tom Hegna. And Tom Hegna is a Fox Business television host. He's author, speaker, PBS presenter. Really glad to have you here with us, Tom. So we can just talk about some of the things that are happening for our overall economy. It was kind of a strange thing last week. Last week, the national debt topped $35 trillion, and that was expected. We know it was going to hit there. But what I found was interesting is that in the same week, Donald Trump decided on his campaign he's going to promise not to tax Social Security benefits. And I'm like, wait a minute. I may have my biases, but aren't you just kicking the can down the line? I mean, I'm seeing there's some uncertainty here, and you are an economist far more than I am. I barely pay attention to the economic headlines, so I'm going to feel just a slight disadvantage, but I think I know the good questions to ask. But I'd love your thoughts and opinion. We can pontificate, and what do you see is happening here, Tom?
Well, thank you, David, and it's great to be with you. I'm coming to you live from Flagstaff, Arizona. Well, I think the first thing is, we've talked about it's not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a math problem. We need a math party. Just let me give you some math. $35 trillion is $268,000 per taxpayer. So every taxpayer watching this owes $268,000. It's $104,000 per person. So every man, woman, child, baby, whatever, $104,000. That's serious money, but people don't know what $1 trillion is. We throw numbers around. And so if you remember back in Paychecks and Playchecks, I have this little vignette where if you were paying $1 per second, all right, $1 equals 1 second, $1 million would equal 11 and a half days. $1 billion would equal 32 years. $1 trillion would equal 32,000 years at $1 equals 1 second. Now I did some math to pay that debt off. The 32,000 years of 1 trillion at 35 trillion, it would take 1,024,000 years to pay the debt off at $1 equals 1 second. But even worse, if you go on the U.S. debt clock, the unfunded obligations that this country now has is $217 trillion. It will take us 6,944 years at $1 equals 1 second to pay off all of our unfunded obligations. So we have some serious financial issues. I think Trump saying he's not going to tax tips, he's not going to tax Social Security. I mean, he's a politician. He's trying to get elected. That's what politicians do. Okay. Politicians can't solve our debt problem. It's going to take somebody, creative to do that. But I did look up how much Social Security, the taxation of Social Security actually is. I have it written down here somewhere. Oh, it's $48.6 billion a year that the government collects on taxes on the benefits of Social Security. So, I mean, 48 billion is a lot of money, but we're not talking trillions. So I don't think not paying tax on Social Security is going to, raise the debt significantly. It will raise it a little. But I think there are some ways to fix the debt, but it's going to have to take somebody who's very creative.
Yeah, and what's interesting, during the Trump presidency, the national debt seemed to really slow. It grew, but it slowed down. I think 2019, it only grew a total of maybe 1 trillion for the entire year. But yeah, based on this current spending, and of course we're still coming off the high of the spending of COVID, and so COVID accelerated everything.
Yeah.
And on this track right now, I mean, I could share my screen, but we've got the debt clock, and right now it's showing we just hit 35 trillion last week. We're already at 35.135. We're going to be at 36 right at the day of election day. Yeah. This is skyrocketing so much so that it's really going to be a problem. And Trump making these promises. Now, here's the thing about Trump being a politician. He's the weird politician because he actually does what he says. He's the strange one because a lot of other politicians, they campaign, they make these promises, they pander. But Trump was already president once before, and okay, here's my bias, but the fact is the guy did what he said he was going to do, which is what makes it scary because everything that he's talking about, he'll probably get it done in some way, shape, or form. So that's the concern that I have because even if Trump lowers taxes even further, because we also have the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that's going to be sunsetting at the end of next year. So to me, the two major things I'm looking at is what's going to be the outcome of this presidential election. Depending on who wins, will determine if the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act will continue or just be modified a different way or completely scrapped. And we got Kamala's plan of whatever that's going to look like.
Yeah. Well, and then just to throw a little more politics into it, there was a certain senator that was the guy who got Social Security taxed in the first place. Social Security was never taxed for years, but then Senator Joe Biden got it where Social Security was taxed. And so I think by saying he's not going to tax Social Security benefits, I'm not receiving them yet. I'm getting close to that time. And I've always thought it was crazy that they tax Social Security benefits. So we'll see. But I also think it would be a creative guy, whether that's Trump or like a Jared Kushner type guy who thinks outside the box. You got to remember, America is a very rich country. The government owns billions of acres of land, or at least hundreds of millions of acres of land. They own oil resources. We own a lot. We are a very rich country with assets. And if we could have somebody start to use that wisely, nobody should be able to use our government land for free. They should have to pay us rent. They should not get our oil for free. They should have to pay the government. So if somebody ever put on their business hat, and Trump may be the guy to do it, they could figure out a way that our country could actually bring in revenue other than taxes. There'd be other revenue. There could be fees and charges. And I mean, you got to look at our resources. We are a very rich country. The other thing is, believe it or not, Bitcoin could play a role in solving the debt. And, you know, I know people thought my social media got hacked the time I said I favor, 1% of a portfolio in Bitcoin. I did it when Bitcoin was back at 2000, and I was very smart.
Yeah, I was one of those. Yeah.
And the government does have a bunch of Bitcoin because through criminal organizations and stuff, they get this stuff. And both RFK and Trump have said that they support Bitcoin, that they want the government to own some Bitcoin. So if the government owns some Bitcoin, and Bitcoin actually did soar like a lot of people think it can, and the more I study it, the more I think it will, that could play a role in at least knocking out some of the trillions. But here's the deal with the debt. The problem with the debt is it's growing like this. If we just flatten it out, let's just flatten it out. Let's just say no more debt, okay? And then we put it on a 200-year path to pay it off. That would be all we need to do. We don't have to pay it off tomorrow. We don't have to pay it off next year. We just can't keep having the debt going up like this. It's crazy. It's idiotic. Every family, every state has to live within a balanced budget. We should have a balanced budget amendment for the U.S. government. We should have to live within our means, stop the debt from growing, and then figure out a smart way to pay it off.
And as you're talking, I'm thinking about two things come to mind. One was that our mutual friend, Sanjay Tolani, now that guy's in Dubai.
Yeah.
Now, Dubai has their own product. They export oil like there's no tomorrow. And that's why they have absolutely zero tax system at all there whatsoever. One of the richest nations in the world, if not the richest nation in the world. And when I talk to him about it, he's like, David, there's no taxes here at all. There's no sales taxes, no income taxes, no estate taxes, inheritance taxes, business transfer, none of it, because they have their own product. Mm-hmm. What does the United States have for a product? Well, we've got our armed forces. We're stationed around, and I don't think anybody canceled the contracts with all these different countries for providing this protection of our armed forces, which, by the way, Tom Hegna, thank you for your service as Army captain. Weren't you a captain? I can't remember.
Lieutenant Colonel, yeah, retired.
Lieutenant Colonel, thank you. So so a little something about those services and such. The other thing I was thinking of, you're talking about Bitcoin Bitcoin and such, is that the biggest strength of Bitcoin is also its biggest weakness. and that is that it's not correlated to anything. Every other currency in the world has a country that backs it up. Bitcoin has none of that, which is great and a problem all at the same time, depending on which way you want to look at it at the moment. So yeah, maybe that might be part of that. So
But the
yes,
main
I was
strength
one
of
of those
Bitcoin
people that
is the main strength of Bitcoin is limited to 21 million. And there's over 21 million millionaires in the world. And if they all put 1% of their portfolio in there, and we're not even talking the thousands of billionaires, and we're not even talking the normal people that are going to put some money in there. And now we're talking governments are putting money in there. If anybody's a non-believer, just follow Michael Saylor for a while. I've done more. I've done more research and more research and more research, and I'm not advocating putting a ton of money into Bitcoin. I'm saying 1% is prudent. It's wise because if it goes to zero, it won't hurt you. And just so you know, so I put that 1% in back when Bitcoin was 2,000. Now that position is worth almost like $1 million. So now I'm scared. What if it did go down to zero? So now I put that same amount of money that I put back then, I put into a short Bitcoin that goes up if Bitcoin goes down. So if Bitcoin goes down to zero, that'll be worth $1 million. So I'm hedged on both sides. And I hope the negative Bitcoin just is not of value. And I think Bitcoin will just go up, but I'm protected either way now. And so if there are Bitcoin haters out there, just know you can get rich if Bitcoin goes to zero. There's an ETF out there that can make you rich. But I don't think it's going to zero. But anyway, that's off the track a little bit. But I just think
something else that people can do is an additional point of diversification of the portfolio if it makes sense for them, if they're comfortable doing so. And of course, everybody, I've got my disclaimer going down at the bottom. This is educational purposes only. We are not giving you securities investment advice, buying, selling, holding, risk analysis, or any asset allocation securities. There, I've covered myself. Anything you guys do on your own, you're doing on your own.
David, Norway had a big debt problem, and they were able to turn their oil and gas operation so that they paid off their debt. And so, I think there are ways we could do it. I don't think a normal politician is going to be able to do it. It's going to have to be somebody. It's going to have to be an Elon Musk, a Donald Trump type person, somebody, like I said, Jared Kushner, smart guy, some smart, creative business person will figure this out. It's not going to be Kamala or Joe Biden or a normal politician and Republican or Democrat. It's not going to be them. They don't think that way. They only think about getting elected. We need real statesmen. Think about back in the 40s and 50s when they decided to build Hoover Dam and have Lake Powell and Lake Mead provide water to the Southwest. We actually had leaders back in the day that looked how to solve big problems. And we don't have that anymore. We just have people who snipe at each other and, that person's for that and that person's for that. They're not thinking about how to solve the problems of this country. We need to get back to where we really have thoughtful leaders that are solving problems instead of just calling each other names all the time.
Oh, yeah. Preach it. No, I was just thinking that what you basically mentioned earlier was that we have underutilized assets. And if we could just get those assets being utilized in a wise, prudent way, just like we could do individually for whatever we're doing in our own personal budgets and things. If you've got an underutilized asset, how do we monetize that for our own personal gain, turn it into a business or whatever it could be? It's just sound financial management, which is what the government may never have had. Maybe at one time they did, definitely not these days. Yeah, everybody wants to just snipe at each other, which is really annoying. Hey, Alonzo, salute to you. Glad to see you, my friend. And but now yesterday's news, we had a little bit of a market sell-off. And here's the thing that I'm starting to catch on to some phrasing in some of these articles is that when something doesn't come in as expected, that's the key, as expected, then the market responds either gleefully or manic depressive. They either love it or they hate it. And then the market over responds to it. And then today I'm looking at Bloomberg right now. You got two big headlines, which is here, I'll just share my screen real quick. Stocks rise as dip buyers emerge after the sell-off. So I'm really glad that there's some people that have cash or other assets on the side that they can use to buy into opportunities when they see that they can take advantage of those things. At the same time, we've got the other headline, which is 6.4 trillion stock wipeout has traders fearing for the great unwind is just starting. Based on obviously those two things, people are buying and people are fearing. What would be some great overall non-legally binding advice that we can take for our consumers? That what should we do in times of uncertainty?
Well, we all know you make money buying low, selling high, and we all know most people buy high and they sell low. The key is in times of uncertainty like now, people crave certainty. Well, what do we offer in the insurance industry? We offer certainty. We have guaranteed products. We can say the word guaranteed. If an RIA says the word guaranteed, they take them out in handcuffs. They can't say the word guaranteed. We can say the word guaranteed. We have guaranteed products, guaranteed interest rates, guaranteed cash value, guaranteed payout rates. And those are the things in times of uncertainty you want to talk to people about guarantees. See, guarantees don't matter when the stock market's hitting all-time record highs. Oh, my broker's getting me 35%. I don't care about those guarantees. They don't care. But when things get tough, that's when guarantees matter. Now, it's unfortunate that people don't take profits when the market's at an all-time high and lock in some profits in guaranteed products, but that's not the way that their human mind works. They wait till things go down, they panic, they get money out, and then they want some guarantee. So, I've watched it now for over 30 years, almost 40 years, every cycle. They should be selling high and buying low, but they do the opposite. But I mean, that's just the business we're in. And just understand that when markets are volatile, that's the time you should be reaching out to clients, because the brokers aren't reaching out to their clients.
Great opportunity for market share to be able to attract new opportunities, new relationships. And by the way, that headline reminds me of what, your book, Tom Hegna's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Great book. I am very highly biased because not only am I in the book, I'm on page 76, guys, for like 5 pages. That's my picture. That's my picture right here. And then I've got the nice long quote here on the back. So I appreciate the endorsement here, Tom.
I've got it here too.
I want to make sure.
So let me just say something about this. So I've spent my entire career talking about protecting and distributing wealth. This was the first time I did something on building wealth. This was really for my kids. I got 4 kids. My oldest boy just turned 40 the other day. I can't believe it. And then I'm down to 22. So I got between 22 and 40. These are the things that I taught my kids on how to build wealth. And I'm just seeing so many young people that are just doing pretty dumb things with their money, and they're focused on trying to look wealthy instead of becoming wealthy. And so this book is how to stop looking wealthy and how to actually build wealth and become a multi-millionaire, because it's very possible. And in today's world, I would say it's as simple can be to become wealthy. Is it easy? No. Is it simple? Yes. So read the book and you can become rich.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my things in there was borrowing against a life insurance policy. If you've built up enough cash values in that policy, borrow against it. Look for opportunities like what happened yesterday in the market. Put it into something that you're comfortable with. I'm not telling anybody what to put it in. Hold on to it for at least 12 months so you can get, when you sell it, you get long-term capital gain treatment as opposed to ordinary income tax treatment. Then sell it off, repay the loan. You pay the tax on the gain, rinse, repeat, do it over and over and over again as opportunities come by, which to me is one of the ways that you can actually take bad news, and instead of becoming a victim of it, you can actually take ethical advantage of it and become a winner out of it, which is what I think is missing from so many traditional financial plans out there. They don't position you to take advantage. They position you to buy, hold, and really it's not just buy and hold, it's buy, hold, and pray.
Yeah.
That's the phrasing on a lot of these plans these days.
It's really a buffer asset. It's a non-correlated asset. Look, I've used my life insurance policy to buy my last 2 houses because in Arizona, it was pretty much a cash buyer market. If you try to take out a loan, you aren't going to get the house. And so, where do you come up with $1 million or $1.5 million cash, within a couple of days? Well, life insurance, I can do that. And so I took the loan, bought the house for cash, paid the loan back. Then up here in Flagstaff, we had another opportunity. Boom, paid off the house, took a loan, paid the house, bought the house, and paid the loan off. And so it's very nice to have a buffer, a place that you can go to get money if you need it on very short notice. And so, I mean, these people who are against permanent life insurance, I don't think they've really lived life, because everything I write about and speak about, I do. I'm not just talking the talk, I'm walking the walk. I'm playing golf 4 to 5 days a week now. I'm still my pickleball shorts. You can't see it, but I play pickleball just 45 minutes or an hour ago. And so, we're traveling the world, we're seeing things. I said, I must be the stupidest guy in the world. I own 13 annuities. They're supposed to be stupid. My life insurance premium was $262,000 a year. I guess that was stupid. But you know what? I'm looking around and I don't see a lot of people that have, as good a thing as what I'm doing. So I guess I was just stupid, but these products do tend to work.
Yeah, no, you've insulated yourself from a lot of this so that not only does it not really affect you, but you can take advantage of those things as you choose to. You are well positioned economically just with life insurance and annuities, because the annuities, they're not going to be affected by market volatility unless they're variable. But even then, variable annuities, the cash flow from those are not affected by market volatility. The remaining balance is, but not the cash flow.
And the variable annuities that I have used have a cash value guarantee over a 10-year period of time. So I get the unlimited upside of the market. I got no downside risk over a 10-year period of time. My risk is the 10 years that it can go up and down in that 10 years, but not after 10 years. And so that's what I used, and it worked out very well. My wife's done the same thing. It worked out very well for her too. And now you got RILAs that don't have the fees of a variable annuity, that give you unlimited upside, that can, buffer you 10 or 20% on the downside. There's all kinds of different products out there now. And if people don't want any downside risk, indexed annuity will give you some of the upside of the market and none of the downside. So, and if they don't even like that, you got MIGAs that are still paying 5%. So, I mean, there's a lot of great products out there.
Yeah, I know one agent, he messaged his entire book of business saying, hey, if you don't like this market volatility, he's got 5.8% on a MIGA. Although he did say no one's responded yet. So maybe they just haven't opened their email yet, or they're too afraid to look at stuff. I don't know, but there's some really great stuff out there. Gentlemen, you guys have been quiet, but then again, I've been pouncing on the questions here. I need you guys to chime in here. Kurt, you got a really good question about, I think, the Federal Reserve and what they might be looking to do. What do you got, my friend?
Well, just something else that came to mind just as Tom was talking a few minutes ago is, Tom, maybe you could speak to this a little bit. Over the last several years, we've obviously seen the Monte Carlo simulation theories with the safe withdrawal rate, being adjusted from what we probably started out at 4, and now they say it's 2.8, and then Dr. Fowl has come out and I think now saying it's more like 2.4. And when you talk about mortality credits and those guaranteed streams of income that you can produce that you just alluded to, can you speak to how you think those will play out maybe in a market where Fed decisions are coming up are going to lower the rate and the 10-year treasuries and things to that effect?
Well, I do think interest rates are going to have to come down a little. The market's going to pressure Powell to lower rates. They're already trying to clamor for 50 basis points, which is going to be hard for him right before the election to lower interest rates by 50 basis points. But I don't think interest rates are going to come down a little. Although, if I thought interest rates are going to go back down to 1%, I would pour a bunch of my money into bonds. Here's why I don't necessarily think that might happen. We now have $35 trillion of debt, and they're having to issue more and more and more debt. Who's going to buy that debt when we're already 35 trillion? They're not going to take it for 1% anymore. And so the thing that's going to keep interest rates higher than what they should be is our debt, because people are not going to want to increase, accept the risk of a country that's 35 trillion in debt, 122% of their GDP. And so that's going to keep interest rates a little bit higher than I don't think we're going to see it go back down to 0 or 1%. I think it's going to hang out at 2 and 3% for an extended period of time, but rates should come down a little. That means payout rates will come down a little. That means annuities will be impacted a little, but it's always compared to what? The payout rate on an income annuity is still going to be more than what you could get on a bank or a bond or, bank CD or a bond. And so it's always compared to what? If rates come down, payout rates come down, but they're still going to be relatively better than these other products.
Yeah. It just don't. Understanding the nature of the beast is so key, because we have to keep the interest rates high, because that maybe the United States is getting more and I'll probably use the wrong term. I don't want anybody getting any panics on this, but the United States might be getting into more close to junk bond territory. I mean, if you got too much debt, you have to pay higher payouts on that, just as a company would. If the company is too high in debt, they're becoming a problem. You have to make that risk worth it, and that means you have a higher payout. So in a way, it's a beautiful thing for annuities and cash value life insurance because they take advantage of that opportunity and interest rate and inflation. That's a whole nother issue. That was the other part I was going to bring up, because with the national debt and inflation, because inflation is definitely playing a big role in this, and part of that inflation is the minimum wage. The minimum wage fuels inflation, but unfortunately, concurrent with that, we have the economics of politics. Yeah. Now, I happen to be here in California, where they love touting that we're going to save everybody by giving them higher wages. And lately, it's been the fast food workers. Now it's all $20 an hour for business enterprises that are at least a certain size, certain number of employees and things. But what did that do? It causes prices to go up because they have to come up with that somehow, because really businesses don't necessarily pay taxes. They do, but they pass it all on to the consumer. It all trickles down and trickles around depending on the business and things. And yet businesses, they don't keep as many people on for the same number of hours. They don't my mind is going here on this, but basically it's all this trickle effect, all because the politicians want to get reelected, and so they're pandering to the need of the people, and it's all fueling that minimum wage growth, which is fueling the inflation.
Yeah. And they say, well, we got to help people have a living wage. People got to live, and so they raise the minimum wage. Well, now you go to McDonald's, it's $12 or $13 for a Big Mac with fries and Coke, and people are saying no. Starbucks stock is way down because people are saying, I'm not going to pay $6 for a latte anymore. I'm not going to pay $12 for a Big Mac with fries. And so, when they say they're helping people, who are they hurting? They're hurting the people they say they're helping. I watch politicians do this all the freaking time. They say, oh, we got to help these people. Well, they're hurting them. $20 minimum wage isn't going to help anybody. It's going to just cause all the prices to go. They spend all that money on the infrastructure, the CHIPS Act. Well, inflation went right through the roof. Gas went up to $5 again. All the things that they say they want to do, they do the exact opposite. And it's frustrating to watch. But we need real business people. Like, what we ought to do is we ought to say, we're not going to use taxes to pay off the debt. We're going to come up with smarter ways. We're going to charge when you take oil out of our ground or gas out of the ground. We're not going to let these companies just take it for free. And why don't we lease areas in the Grand Canyon where McDonald's can set up a restaurant, or Hilton Hotels can build a hotel, and we get revenue off that for the rest of our lives. And they have to build it a certain way to make it look like cabins or whatever. I mean, we can control how it looks, but we have all these national parks. We should be monetizing some of this stuff. There's all kinds of things that a smart business person could figure out on how the U.S. could make more money. And we're not being very smart with it right now. And we need wiser minds up there to really think of ways other than raising our taxes to get the revenue. But having said that, I believe taxes are going to have to go up a lot. And I've converted all my IRAs and 401ks to Roth. I now can use backdoor Roth, even though, I make too much to do a normal Roth. I do backdoor Roth. And then I've been pouring my wealth into cash value life insurance. I'm going to have a huge tax bill next year because I did a big Roth IRA, but I'll pay it now. And then hopefully for the rest of my life, my taxes will be lower. And that's what I'm trying to set myself up to have, a lower tax. I'm just hedging against what I believe will be much higher taxes in the future.
Yeah, you're moving everything be off the radar screen of the IRS as much as possible, at least in terms of the impact, let alone disclosure. Roth IRAs, of course, we know are still subject to a 1099 form for information purposes. I still think that one day that's going to be used to say, like municipal bond interest, which makes it taxable for your Social Security. I still think that eventually Roth IRA distributions will have the same impact. It's not in the tax code yet. I just think that one day that's going to be part of it, and that Social Security will eventually be means tested, whether you get it at all, depending on all other income, including Roth IRA income. Again, not part of the tax code yet. I just think that one day it's going to happen.
Well, it kind of already has with the IRMA and the Medicare, if you look at it, because the higher income now has to give up more of their Social Security to pay for Medicare. And eventually, for wealthy people, 100% of their Social Security will pay for their Medicare. And so Social Security is really not the problem. I could fix Social Security in less than 15 minutes for the next 100 years. Very simple fix. Medicare and Medicaid, those are not simple. And I think it's going to take an Apple, an Amazon, Elon Musk, somebody smarter than the U.S. government to figure out how to solve that problem. But almost all of our financial problems for the future are based on healthcare, not on Social Security. Social Security, easy fix.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was actually going to ask you about that because I'm actually a Medicare guy. I worked with Aon Hewitt and their Medicare for several years. So, yeah, I mean, that's the problem that I foresee too, is healthcare and Medicare. And, what do we do to fix it? I know Social Security, like you said, it can be fixed, but, we keep robbing kind of Medicare to pay for some stuff. And I think that you're certainly, I don't know, maybe even the income thresholds go down on IRMA. They really haven't been adjusted for over a decade now, or something like that.
Well, I mean, the IRMA, I think it's adjusted. It's the tax on Social Security. Those
Right.
levels haven't ever changed. They're the same as they were like 30
Right.
years ago.
And then there's the Part D IRMA too, where you have to pay more for your Part D.
Yeah, thank goodness I'm on TRICARE for life, so I got some perks with healthcare. But they're going to have to do legal reform, because one of the reasons that our healthcare is so expensive is that everybody's suing doctors all the time. They're going to have to put limits on that. I'm not saying that if a doctor does something terrible, they shouldn't have to have accountability. They should, but it can't be $87 million for some hangnail that caused you a problem. We got to get it where it's if it's death, maybe there's a limit that they could be sued for, but it's gotten out of hand, and we're all paying for it. So it's not like these other people are paying. No, we're paying for it in our higher insurance premiums, higher premiums for Medicare. And so again, we need politicians. The politicians today are not solving problems. They're really causing problems. We need problem solvers, not problem causers. And I just see the Democrat Republican thing. It's just so nasty. And here's why it's happening. I'll tell you. I'll give them a whole politic thing. So they've gerrymandered all the districts so bad, and both sides do it. Republicans, when they're in charge, they do it. Democrats, they do it. So this district is all Republican. This is all Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat. And so who gets elected in the Democrat? The wackiest left winger gets elected there. Who gets elected in the Republican? The wackiest right wing guy gets elected there. And so we're electing politicians in the end zone. Think of us as on a football field. The politicians are in the end zone, but the American people are between the 40-yard lines. We're pretty much center. We lean a little left, a little right, but we're pretty much even people that I talk on pickleball, and I know they're with the other party. We can talk and we can have fun and we can do stuff. I don't agree with what they think on abortion or what they think on this or whatever, but we're in between the 40-yard lines, but our politicians are in the end zones. And so the solution, if we really want to solve it, we have to make every district as close to 50-50. You'll never get a 50, but it's close. They have to be mixed districts, all of them, so that you can't get a wacko left winger or a wacko right winger in there, that real Americans are getting elected to government. If we could do that, then we'd be back to where it was back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, where they get together and they have a cigar and they'd solve the problems and they'd fix it. But we're too divided because of all this gerrymandering. That is the root cause of our problem, is the gerrymandering.
Oh, agree. And I'll say that social media in general doesn't necessarily help, because first of all, you got generally nameless people behind a lot of these comments and such, that all they're trying to do is incite flame wars on either side. And it causes more mental division in our heads first, so that we actually think that we have to be on the defense anytime we can get into a conversation on these things. What I try to, when I do have political conversations, I do have them on occasion, my goal is to learn something about the other person. Why do they believe what they believe? Where do they come from? Why is that part of their belief structure? Not, am I going to win this argument? I'm tired of trying to be in the winning game. My goal is to understand people. This way, everybody wins if you're both playing on that side. And so the conversations could be really neat with that objective in mind, rather than trying to say, well, your guy's an idiot and that lady's a moron or whatever else, which obviously is going to happen anyway. on social media, but in person, keep in mind that we're not enemies of each other. We can actually have civil discourse and talk about things and actually leave us part as friends, saying that, okay, we could disagree, but you know what? You're okay. I see where you're coming from. Yeah. That we could have a whole lot of healing if we could just get some of that. And here's the thing about Trump. When he got elected, the left, obviously everybody can tell what my bias is now, but the left did not realize that Trump is a deal maker. Forget his label. They should have come in and said, what kind of deal can we get? It was the same thing with Reagan. Reagan, I remember him saying, I can't cite it, but Reagan would say, if I could get 70% of what he wants, that's a beautiful thing. And so if they would just be far more collaborative and far more open discussion rather than they look like they're appeasing the other side, we could get a whole lot more done. And I think there is a group, it's called the Problem Solvers Caucus. And I think they're part of that, trying to actually, and there's equal amounts of Republican and Democrat on both sides trying to figure out mutually beneficial solutions. I wish they were bigger. I wish they were making more of a difference. I wish more people knew about them. But there are some movements there, but it's just not happening quick enough. I wanted it done yesterday.
Like we should put AI to solve the budget. Like program AI to figure out the smartest way to solve the budget deficit. I mean, to get rid of the debt. There are smart people out there. There's smart computers out there. We could do this if we thought outside the box and not just think, oh, it's the only taxes and spending. No, that we could bring in revenue from all different sources. And
absolutely,
we should.
Yeah. We should be. We should be leading, and we should be seeing this debt actually going down over time. Even if it's just a little bit, if we could just see it not increase and just start a slight going down, that would be the biggest win. Whoever could get that, whoever could be the leader to bring about that kind of collaboration. Alonzo, my friend, he says, MAGA just is about infrastructure and better economy for our country. Well, we'd like to see that, but at what price? And that's the problem that we're looking at. We'd love to see more infrastructure and better economy, but if it's at the cost of growing the national debt, you got both sides of the problem there, and that's what we've been kind of talking about. So, anyway, I can't think of anything else. We've had a great discussion here, guys. Can you think of anything else we need to talk about? To kind of wrap up here. The main thing I think of is that life insurance and annuities can help you insulate you, as well as help you take advantage of opportunities. And that's something that is just not widely known out there, that these contracts have different properties than other accounts. Accounts are usually subject to whatever they're subject to, but contracts, you have certain contractual rights and they have certain tax code privileges that are amazing that can either insulate you or help you take advantage.
And I think there's so many now disinterested third-party references that support us both on life insurance and annuities. Look at BlackRock. They got $9 trillion in the stock market. They got more money in the market than Fidelity or Vanguard. And they say this: adding guaranteed lifetime income combined with a more aggressive asset allocation generates 29% more annual spending ability from one's retirement savings and reduces downside risk by 33%. That's BlackRock. You got Dr. Michael Finke, Dr. Wade Pfau that have all the great comments on why you need annuities. The Center for Retirement Research, Boston College, lifetime income products are a cornerstone of retirement planning. U.S. News and World Report, you buy an annuity because it does what no other investment can do: provide guaranteed lifetime income for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. Dr. Roger Ibbotson did a whole white paper on comparing bonds against fixed index annuities. He found fixed index annuities outperform bonds for the last 40 years and are likely to do so for the next 40 years. Ernst & Young, they're an accounting firm. They have nothing to do with annuities or life insurance. And they say that the optimal portfolio in retirement is 30% income annuity, 30% cash value life insurance, 40% investments. That's the leading accounting firm. And so, I would use some of these with your clients when you're talking uncertainty. The annuity does three things for you. Number one, it improves portfolio performance. You give me anybody's portfolio, I will take out some of the bonds, I'll put in an income annuity, the returns will go up, the risk will go down. Why? Because inside that portfolio, that annuity functions like a AAA rated bond with a CCC rated yield with zero standard deviation. Number two, the research shows you're likely to be happier if you have guaranteed income. And number 3, the research now shows you're likely to live longer, up to 20% longer. A 65-year-old male will live if they have guaranteed income versus if they don't have guaranteed income. And that's an average. It's not every single person will do that, but that's what the research. And so if people would just dig in, read the research, get the third-party articles. I created an entire playbook, David. So I took all those quotes that's in the playbook, and it's just the 7 simple steps from Don't Worry, Retire Happy, and put all that together in a playbook. Because if it were me and I was out there, I would want to use disinterested third-party references to solidify my point. So it's not just me telling them that this is what all the experts are saying. And that's, I think, how you get people to change their own minds. Instead of trying to change their mind, get them to change their own mind by giving them powerful research.
Oh, it's so huge. And helping them to make that buying decision. You know what? I like taking a little bit opposite approach, not contrary, but if you take away that resource, here's what you'd have to do to make up the difference without me and my tools. Mm-hmm. And when you can kind of take it away, it's like, oh, that's the real cost. Because if I don't have this, if I pass away to, much later, then I'm spending my principal and interest. I don't have that, what we call longevity credits that the annuity provides, which is that bond substitute that helps. Our mutual friend, Curtis Cloak, he says, buy income and invest the difference, which is a beautiful phrase. I love that one. But yeah, these contracts, when incorporated prudently into one's financial plan, they do amazing things that just aren't quantified by other people in our industry many times. So I can't think of it enough. That was a great, we call it a rant. I love that rant. I think we ought to close it out on that.
All right.
Gentlemen, can you think of anything else we need to add? I think we had a wonderful discussion here.
No, I can't.
Well, I have one question. You said you used your life insurance to buy your house?
Yes.
Did you have to prove your income?
No.
Did you use that?
No, I just called up the customer service line, and it came in my bank account 3 days later.
Well, they didn't ask you for any bank statements or credit score?
No, it came right away. Boom. Just one phone call, boom, in my bank account.
And it just kind of works that way, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, isn't that something?
It's
Who would have
amazing.
Thought? I love that. That was great. Gentlemen, thank you all so very much. We're going to end it here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We've had quite a few people tuning in and commenting. Make sure you guys hit the like, comments, share, subscribe, all that stuff. We are so close to 5,000 subscribers, guys. I think I needed like 9 more people. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button, just do it. Might as well. You'll make me happy. Appreciate you. All right, guys. We'll catch you all next week. Yeah. Tom Hegna, thank you so much. And make sure you guys get his book. Here, I can't do it. That's right. Get the book, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And why? Because I'm on the cover, on the back end. I'm in there for like 5 pages, talk about how you can take ethical advantage. There's a lot of other great stuff in here from other contributing authors as well. So thank you all so much, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you.